Hey, what's going on, campus pastors? I want to take a minute and just talk through the growth coach process that I really want to start implementing to be able to fully equip each one of your main direct reports at your campus to be effective in what they're doing. So this is a presentation that I have already presented to the growth coaches, but I wanted to share it with you also so that you were aware of what this process is going to look like, what we're moving toward, and each one of the roles. What's your role as a campus pastor, and how does that relate to the growth coach, and what is their role? How do you guys work together? So keep in mind that this entire process is something that we're working toward. It is not a finished product, but we do want to put a lot of effort into making these things functional at your campus for all 8 of the areas that we have growth coaches. So the things that I'm presenting, this is what we want to work toward. But it will take some time to get everything fully implemented. So let's start with, what is a growth coach? A growth coach is, number one, they're an expert in a particular area. They have a unique set of skills, or they have extensive experience in a particular area, and they are able to pass off that expertise to the people who are on your team so that they can really learn the ropes. So the people in the growth coaching roles, they've been doing this particular field of ministry for an extended amount of time, and they have extensive knowledge on these particular things, and they want to pass that along to your people. Second thing is, they're a coach. A coach is somebody that brings the best out of people through strategic training. Something that you want to keep in mind about these growth coaches, they are coaches on the sideline, but they don't have the ability to step on the field. Your key people, for example, your NOH site director needs to be the one that is actually implementing and doing the work for a Network of Hope at your location. But Julie, as the growth coach of NOH, she is somebody who can really come alongside that site director and make them the best that they can possibly be. So if there's ever a point in time where you need somebody to step on the field and actually do the work and implement things and put things into motion, that actually has to happen at the campus level with your people. But Julie's going to be there as a resource, as the person that's coaching. Your person is the NOH site director. So a coach is really doing the strategic training, bringing the best out of people, but they're not the ones actually doing the work. That's going to be the people that you build on your team in those 8 key areas. Third thing is, they're an advisor. It's somebody who can give advice or direction during difficult times or during new experiences. So the key people that have been doing this for a while, the experts, the growth coaches, they're typically going to have extensive experience in a lot of different areas, but a lot of the people that you're adding to your team, they may be experiencing things for the very first time. They might be new to youth ministry or children's ministry or leading small groups. But if they can leverage the advice from the growth coaches, they're going to really be able to make good decisions and succeed in certain things. So just a quick example, me as the children's ministry growth coach, I'm able to walk Melissa or Sage or Gilbert through different challenges that they have, because most likely I've already walked through those things myself. I think back to this past summer, we had somebody at Deer Lakes who had lice in the children's ministry. And in that moment, it was the very first time that someone at Deer Lakes experienced that. But I have a whole folder in Google Docs with a lice letter, our response, how we do this. So those types of things, a growth coach is able to give advice to the people that they're coaching when they encounter something new, or they're working through a difficult time, or they have a challenge that comes up. Number 4 is, they're an encourager. The growth coach should be a very, very positive person. They're a cheerleader on the sideline, and they want to constantly affirm the people that they're coaching. They're the ones that are telling them they can do it even during those difficult times. And they have the benefit of not being completely tied to all the details like you would be at your campus, but they can kind of look at it from an outsider's perspective and just see the positive and encourage them to continue moving toward the goal of reaching people in their particular area. The 5th thing, and this is really an important dynamic that I learned through coaching the children's directors at every campus. Many times the growth coach needs to be the key communicator, and it's someone who closes the communication gaps between the campus director or the ministry director at that campus and the campus pastor. Because a lot of times in growth coach meetings, there are things that are presented to the ministry leaders But the campus pastor isn't aware of those things. The growth coach brings the two of those things together to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So if I'm talking to the kids directors about, hey, this is our plan for the summer, this is what we're doing to launch Kids Kaboom, and I tell that to the kids directors, I also need to bring the campus pastors into the loop of that too, just to close the gap, because I'm giving a lot of detailed instructions about children's ministry, but it's so important that that information is also available to you as the campus pastor. And number 6 is a resourcer. A growth coach is somebody who shares resources, information, curriculum, supplies with department leaders. So with small groups, it's sharing small group curriculum or resources available on Right Now Media. In children's ministry, it's sharing all of our curriculum, our music, our games, our videos, and making all of those things available. For NOH, it might be making some training available to the site directors to make sure that everybody's fully prepared for some of the things that they have going on. So the growth coach passes along a lot of those resources that are specific to their area to make sure the people underneath their care, the people that they're coaching, are fully resourced and equipped to do their job effectively. Now, what is a campus pastor? Obviously, you know the answer to that, but I want to talk about this from the angle of how does your role as a campus pastor connect with the growth coaches for each one of the areas, and how do the two of you work together? The goal of the growth coaches is to make your job easy. It's so that you don't have to get into all the details of each specialized area, and you can focus on the big picture of things. So these few things are going to outline how those interactions work, what your role is, and how it's different from the growth coach. Number 1, you're the leader. You set the direction for your campus, and you're responsible for its growth. Nobody is going to grow the campus like you will. That's your responsibility, and you shoulder the weight of the entire direction of your campus, and you are the one that determines whether or not your campus grows. The leadership is resting on your shoulders, and everything really does rise and fall on your shoulders because you are the leader of your particular campus. A growth coach is not that. They're more of an expert in a specific field. Number 2, you're the manager. You manage your staff, you set their goals, you track their progress, and you hold them accountable. The growth coach is giving a lot of advice and giving some pointers and helping to clarify certain situations, but they can't be the one that enforces certain expectations or deadlines and things like that. You as a campus pastor are directly overseeing all of your direct reports. You're the boss, you're the manager, and you're tracking their progress and holding them accountable. The growth coach doesn't hold them accountable to those things. Number 3, and I think this is the most important thing, you're the big picture thinker, and this is why the growth coach process is so important, because you need to remain in that spot where you're seeing things from 50,000 feet and not get into the details. But each one of your people is going to need specific advice on each of their areas, and they need somebody to go into the details with them. It's not going to be your job, it's going to be the growth coach's job to go into the details and figure out some of those refined processes that are specific to small groups or children's ministry, youth ministry, NOH, production, worship, or any of the things that we have laid out. Your job is to remain the big picture thinker and see everything. But the growth coach, their job is to remain specialized in their particular area. And they can get into all the details and they can know all of the things that you need to know as a small groups person or a children's person. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know how to be a worship leader. You don't need to know how to be a children's director. You need to lead your campus, lead your staff, but they can get a lot of the details from their growth coach. And number 4, you're the decision maker. Ultimately, the growth coaches are going to present a lot of ideas. They're going to present options. They're going to give curriculum. They're going to give recommendations. But when everything comes together, you are the final decision maker. And if you say, no, I don't like that, I don't think that works at my campus, I don't like that direction, you are the primary one that can make that decision. Our job as growth coaches is to bring a lot of the information, the resources, and the tools to your people to make them effective. But how they actually implement that is entirely in your control, and you're the final decision maker. Now, obviously, we're working together as a team, and we're not going to recommend a lot of things that are contrary to what you want to do. And there's many times that we will come to an agreement as this is something that every campus is going to do, and then every campus also has the option to really have some flexibility with different areas. So a lot of that we'll outline ahead of time. But with everything that happens, if you don't like the direction of something, you always have the ability to pull the plug to be that final decision maker at your campus, because again, everything rises and falls on your leadership, and you're the one that is really responsible for the growth of your campus. Now, this is our campus structure. You should be pretty familiar with this right now. Let me walk through what this looks like. You have your admin and events. That person does not actually have a growth coach, but all of the other areas do. Kid Zone, worship, production, connections, which encompasses life groups, NOH, and the serve team or the welcome team, and then the youth ministry. Now, we've outlined growth coaches for each one of those areas. So I'm the growth coach for the Kid Zone area. And my goal for Kid Zone is to continue what we've been doing really for about a year and a half now. I want to have a weekly touch point with every one of the children's directors at every campus and give them specialized training, work with them on developing key skills needed to lead the children's ministry, and even doing some group planning like Kids Kaboom, how we're going to really roll that out at every campus this summer. Those are things that we talk about in our growth coaches meeting. Worship is another thing, and this is a really key one that we're working on developing. This is not a finished product yet, but Josh and I have been in extensive conversations about how we can do this, and I want to work with him on several things where he's able to have a touch point with each one of your worship leaders on a regular basis, to do some coaching, to watch the videos from the weekend experiences and evaluate how they're doing, give them some pointers, and help them grow as a worship leader, as well as, and this is something that's even a little bit more long-term, we want to develop a good pipeline for all of the key musicians needed at every campus. So we need a worship leader pipeline when we launch a new campus. But we also want to have a development plan for new drummers, new electric guitar players, and those are all things that we're working toward building. And Josh is working on some plans with that. Keep in mind, this is what we're shooting for. We're not there yet. So if you don't have a drummer at your campus right now, we may not be able to send a drummer right away. But our goal is to have a pipeline and really a place where you're able to go and fish in a pond full of skilled musicians to be able to join your campus. Next is production. Matt has recently joined the staff. I apologize, I lost my screen here, guys. Matt has recently joined our staff, and he's going to be primarily working as the central productions role and as the RNE admin for Pastor Jeff. So he's going to be doing that. And we're working on a plan, me, Bill, Brendan, and Matt, to really figure out a rhythm for how Matt will meet with each one of your people on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, to make sure they're fully informed of everything that needs to happen at your campus for the weekend services. So that's all, again, in process, but Matt's going to be stepping into that role, and he will be very available if anything comes up during the weekend services so that we can get those things fixed. We're working on getting my slides up here. Next is the connections role. And we talked about what that looks like for you, the connections role being the key thing that's overseeing life groups, NOH, and also the welcome team or the serve role. Now, those things are three really big areas, and we're looking to fill those main positions with some of the future campus pastors that Jeff's already meeting with on a regular basis. So if we can get one of those future campus pastors at your location to really oversee those three areas, our goal is to have Chet oversee each one of them and make sure that they're getting coaching, and he would not oversee, to coach them on a regular basis. All right, we're back up and running. So Chet's going to be doing that, and he's going to be involved in that process. I know that that's also something that's very much in the works. We need to identify those people and get them at your campus, but we're going to be working toward that. Now, underneath Chet, underneath the connections person, are three different areas. There's life groups, which Anna will be overseeing, and she'll be sharing a lot of the resources and helping to coach your life group leaders on how to do that. NOH, Julie's going to be doing that with your site directors once we get everybody in place, and she'll help to spearhead that. And then Chet's also going to be working with your welcome director at the same time. So he's playing two positions right now. Eventually, we want to get to the point where we have somebody separate for those things, but he's doing that. And then the last one is Dave leading the youth ministry. one of our primary goals this year is to have a youth group even if it's just a small group or something that grows to be larger than that, at every one of our locations. So Dave's going to be working on a plan for how we can roll this out. What are the key things needed when you're recruiting that youth leader? What a service looks like and things like that. He's going to do all the resourcing and share the curriculum to make them successful. All of this is in process, but I want you to know that I'm working on this and going to be training each one of these growth coaches to be effective in their role. So just be aware of that's going to be happening. This is your staff that you had outlined for me. There are some key positions that are still to be determined on this list. Now, it'll be important for you to be filling these positions and connecting them to their growth coaches. So I won't reach out to any of your people. I'll leave that to you. But eventually, we're going to have to make that connection point where they introduce themselves or you introduce them to the growth coach and you set them up as the expert in this particular field and kind of connect them so that they can begin to coach them. Now, our first gathering is going to be on May 30th, and our goal is to have our all-staff meeting on May 30th where we all get together as a staff, but also that each growth coach is able to meet with their team. We've already talked about this. We're going to have to come up with some creative ways to get these gatherings to happen, especially for the areas that don't have staff members that are paid joining the growth coach experience. We recognize that not everyone's going to be able to make it during that 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock hour. We'll just have to figure out some creative things for them to connect with your people. Now, keep those things in mind. A few things that I went over with the growth coaches, some questions that they probably had. So first one is, what do we do if some of the positions at the campuses are not filled? What's the growth coach's job and what's your job as a campus pastor? Now, ultimately, filling your flow chart is your job to make sure you have all the key people underneath you. But the growth coach might be able to resource you in some ways. So if you don't have anybody, maybe they can help you figure out what type of person to look for. Maybe they can even send somebody that's willing to join your campus that they already have in their pipeline. The key to this is going to be you have to be the one that is leading them. We're not going to be able to send somebody from a growth coach perspective to your area and them still looking to the growth coach for leadership, because ultimately they're going to be leading at your campus. They need to look to you to be their boss, and their loyalty needs to be transferred to you. So there might be some people that we could recommend, but ultimately you'll need to recruit them and get them in place, and then our growth coaches are going to be able to coach them. The other thing that we have to work out is many of the people in particular areas work full-time jobs and they can't attend meetings in the middle of the day. How are we going to handle that? This is a really important thing. I want to gather as much information as possible and try to figure out some video solutions, some people that can video conference into the meetings. We can record them and pass them off. So those are all things that are in process that I'm working on. One of the questions that we talked about in the growth coach meeting is, what do we do if someone in their area isn't responding to them? It's super important for you as the campus pastor, as the leader, as the boss, to make that connection with your people to the growth coach. Understand the growth coach is not able to hold them accountable if they're not fulfilling their responsibilities. It's going to be up to you to enforce certain expectations. And you will want to, if you want the full benefit of the growth coach, you want to make sure that your people are staying connected with the growth coach. It's the growth coach's job to communicate with you, to say, hey, Susie wasn't at our meeting. I texted her. I haven't heard from her for a full week. What do we do about that? And they can pass that information along to you, and it'll be important for you to make sure that person connects with their growth coach. Another question, what happens if one of the people in my area are not performing up to their standards? Again, that comes to a management responsibility and holding them accountable. I would ask that the growth coaches communicate with you that, hey, this person's really not doing well. The things that we talked about in our meeting were to do these 5 things, but they don't seem to be doing it. I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then you as a campus pastor will be the one that actually enforces that. And these will be some great talking points in your O3. If our growth coaches are doing a good job of communicating with you and training their people, and they pass the information along to you that they trained each one of the leaders in your area on, you'll be able to look at those things and say, hey, it sounds like you talked about this. Let's implement this. Let's figure out some deadlines and let's make this happen. So your O3 agenda can be steered in a lot of ways by some of the conversations from your growth coaches. Now, what is the growth coach's role in finding a person or hiring a staff member for those particular areas? Again, growth coaches are really going to function as the advisors. They're going to give you pointers. They're going to give you tips. So as we are even hiring worship leaders, Josh and I are involved with some of these interviews. I want Josh to weigh in and say, hey, here's where this person's going to succeed. Here's where they're going to struggle. And then they give all the information to you and they give you the advice. Hey, we think this person will be good here, might struggle here, but you ultimately have to make the decision, and you're the one that gets people in place. You're the one that's recruiting the volunteers. You're the one that's hiring the staff. But growth coaches will be a really big part of just giving their expertise to things. So super important to be able to get this process up and running. I'll be working with each one of the growth coaches to establish some key things for them to be working on, and even some meeting rhythms to make sure there's touching base with each one of your key leaders on a regular basis. And I'll keep you posted on that. But I wanted to let you know that this was all presented to the growth coaches, and we are working toward getting this process up and running. And we will have our first meeting with our teams on the 30th of May during our staff meeting. And we want to be able to do some roundtable discussions for everybody that's able to be there. And we recognize that not everyone will be able to be there, and we want to work on some solutions for that. So please let me know if you have any questions or you need anything. Love to be able to talk with you, but so excited to get this started. We'll see you guys later.